Let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're unpacking a massive, really fascinating transformation happening right now in East Africa. We are looking at the explosive growth of electric vehicles in Kenya. But we're not just talking about the cars and bikes themselves here. We're actually looking at a huge, hidden economic opportunity lying within what most people would consider a future waste crisis: the batteries. Okay, let's get right into the numbers. 86%. Let that sink in for a second. That is the massive compound annual growth rate of electric vehicle adoption in Kenya between 2020 and 2024. I mean, it is absolutely skyrocketing. While the global EV transition has been largely led by places like China, Europe, and the US, Kenya, which is often called the Silicon Savannah, is rapidly forging its very own uniquely African model of EV adoption. And this transition is happening incredibly fast. There was an absolute explosion in registered EVs right around 2023 and 2024. A lot of that was fueled by smart tax incentives, like the 2023 Finance Act, which zero-rated VAT on electric buses, motorcycles, and lithium-ion batteries. And that growth is heavily dominated by the two-wheeler and three-wheeler segments. We're talking about electric motorcycles, often used as bodabodas or motorcycle taxis, which are being rapidly adopted thanks to these really innovative buy-now-pay-later models from companies like M-Kopa. But, this incredible boom brings up a pretty serious speed bump. What actually happens when all these thousands of batteries die? Now, just to be clear, when we say die in the EV world, we mean they degrade to about 80% of their original capacity. Usually, after 5 to 10 years of the intense daily demands of powering a vehicle, they simply can't hold enough charge for traction anymore. So, what do we do with the whole shebang when they reach that point?
Section 1. The looming battery risk.
Look, if this incoming wave of degraded batteries isn't managed properly, the consequences could be disastrous. The absolutely crucial point here is that improper disposal is an environmental and safety minefield. These batteries are packed with toxic elements like lithium, cobalt, and nickel. If they're just stockpiled, tossed into landfills, or handed over to informal e-waste collectors who don't have the proper safety protocols, we are literally looking at severe soil and water pollution. Plus, degraded EV batteries carry a very serious risk of high-intensity fires if they're mishandled. It's a genuine, immediate threat to public health and the environment.
Section 2. Unlocking second life value.
But here is where we completely flip the script. This exact same toxic threat, it's actually a massive hidden treasure waiting to be unlocked. The sheer scale of this opportunity is mind-blowing. By 2050, as millions of EVs hit the roads and eventually age out of their first life, retiring EV batteries in Kenya will hold a combined residual value of $8.9 billion. That's 1.2 trillion Kenyan shillings. So instead of treating these batteries as hazardous waste, they can actually be kept in the local economy, providing incredible, tangible value. Let's break down how this builds into a circular economy. A battery's life definitely doesn't end the second it comes out of the car. It moves from its first life in a vehicle right into a second life, where it's repurposed to store energy for slightly less demanding tasks. Only after it serves that entire second life does it finally move to recycling, where its core materials are extracted to build brand new batteries. To really wrap our heads around this, we have to look at the batteries themselves. Kenya's market basically has two main categories. First, you have the two- and three-wheeler batteries. These predominantly use lithium iron phosphate, or LFP chemistries. Because they face such intense commercial use as taxis, their first life only lasts about 3 to 10 years. Then you have the four-wheeler batteries for larger passenger cars, which use a mix of LFP and nickel manganese cobalt, or NMC. Because a personal car isn't driven as relentlessly as a taxi, their first life can last anywhere from 8 to 15 years. Now remember that massive adoption spike we were just talking about? 92% of Kenya's current EV fleet is made up of those two- and three-wheelers. And this is actually fantastic news for the second life market. Those LFP batteries from the motorcycles have incredibly long second life potentials. We're talking up to 30 years. Because they're highly thermally stable and have long cycle lives, they're practically tailor-made for stationary energy storage. And that brings us to the real game changer here, the magic acronym, BESS, or Battery Energy Storage System. This is by far the most practical and profitable mechanism for repurposing these batteries. You take the old EV batteries, modify their battery management systems to make sure they operate safely, and stack them up. They basically store electrical energy and then release it during high-demand periods. It stabilizes grids and makes renewable energy incredibly reliable.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. It fits perfectly into everyday Kenyan realities. Kenya already gets about 90% of its electricity from renewable sources, but grid reliability can definitely be an issue. So, repurposed BESS units can power solar home systems and rural microgrids, bringing electricity to off-grid communities. They provide absolutely vital backup power for hospitals. In fact, during a record nationwide blackout in 2023, a hospital outside Nairobi called Top Care Nursing Home literally kept its lights on thanks to a solar BESS. These second-life batteries can also maintain cell service at telecom towers and even run solar-powered irrigation systems for rural farmers. It's a total game changer.
Section 3. The future of recycling. Okay, so these batteries get this incredible second life of 10 to 30 years. But eventually, the battery degrades down to about 50% capacity. And at that point, it can no longer store energy economically. What then? Well, when repurposing is no longer an option, the battery finally has to be recycled to recover critical minerals like lithium and cobalt for domestic battery manufacturing. There are three main methods for this: pyrometallurgical, which essentially uses high heat to smelt the metals; hydrometallurgical, which uses chemical solutions; and the newest method, direct recycling, which recovers battery components without even altering their chemical structure. Now, direct recycling is by far the most profitable method, even if it isn't super widespread globally just yet. By 2050, as recycling volumes finally reach a critical mass from all those retiring second-life batteries, direct recycling alone could generate nearly $44 million in annual profit in Kenya. Plus, it significantly limits the country's reliance on environmentally damaging virgin mining. Section 4. Steps for strategic growth. Obviously, Kenya isn't going to magically wake up to a $44 million recycling industry and $8.9 billion circular economy without a solid plan. So how do we build this ecosystem and avoid the waste crisis? It starts with 3 golden rules of battery circularity. Number 1, extend first life by designing EVs for longevity and repair right out of the gate. Number 2, optimize for second life by creating cross-sector partnerships between e-mobility companies and the solar or telecom industries. And number 3, recycle only as an absolute last resort. Industrial recycling is highly capital intensive, so it really should only happen when completely necessary, which buys Kenya crucial time to build the right infrastructure. And here's the actual chronological roadmap to make that happen. From 2025 to 2030, the focus really has to be on pilot projects and micro, small, and medium enterprises validating business models specifically for those two-wheeler batteries. Moving from 2030 to 2040, it's all about scaling those applications and making the hard investment decisions for recycling infrastructure. And finally, 2040 to 2050 is when large-scale regional recycling hubs actually come online. And here's the catch: because you need to accumulate a massive volume of batteries just to make a recycling plant profitable, those major investment decisions actually need to be made in the mid-2030s to be ready for 2040. To actually make all of this happen, the market needs a few absolutely crucial things from policymakers, investors, and educators. First, Kenya needs a specialized technical workforce trained in safely diagnosing and retrofitting high-voltage systems. There also have to be clear battery liability policies. Think about it. If a repurposed battery causes a fire, who's legally responsible? The original automaker or the solar company that repurposed it? We also need East African community partnerships to pull enough batteries to justify a massive regional recycling plant, maybe stationed somewhere like the Dongo Kundu Special Economic Zone in Mombasa. And finally, we need innovative, de-risk finance to help early entrepreneurs actually build the collection and testing infrastructure. Which leaves us with one final, pretty provocative question to think about. As Kenya pioneers this highly efficient, localized circular economy out of pure necessity and innovation, will the rest of the world follow its blueprint for turning toxic waste into a multi-billion-dollar economic powerhouse? It is literally a gold rush unfolding right before our eyes, and how Kenya navigates these next 10 years could genuinely set the standard for the entire globe. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this gives you a whole new perspective on the electric vehicle revolution.